to be an amazing panel. We have so much to talk about. Every panelist is awesome. My name is Kendra Bracken-Ferguson. I am the founder of BrainTrust. I invite you to visit our booth 107, but I want to jump into all of our panelists. So we're going to kick things off with some intros, and then we're going to jump in and talk about brands of the future. Quick intros, Michael.
Hi, my name is Michael Chernow, thank you. I am the founder of a brand called Creatures of Habit. It's a nutritional wellness brand. We look to introduce really easy to implement healthy habits in a nutritional format into your life on a daily basis so you could be the best version of yourself.
Serial entrepreneur. Thank you, Rachel.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel Tyers. I'm the SVP of Partnerships at Okendo. We're a customer marketing platform that specializes in ratings, reviews, and surveys for Shopify brands. We work with around 7,000 fast-growing brands in the D2C space.
Okay, thank you very much, Salim.
Hey everyone, my name is Salim Najjar. I'm the co-founder of Sound Beverages. We make a line of unsweetened sparkling waters flavored, yes, right here.
Right here.
Flavored with only sound ingredients like fruits, herbs, and tea botanicals. Really trying to bring education and transparency into our industry. Also very passionate about all things health and wellness.
All righty, thank you, Salim. Jacob.
Hi, I'm Jacob Pechenik. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Let Us Grow. Let Us Grow makes it super fun and stress-free for everyone and anyone, which means you, to grow your own food at home. The secret sauce is that we grow baby plants halfway at a network of farms nearby. We send the plants to you. You finish growing them in our farm stand, which does all the work until you're ready to consume it. The result is the most delicious and nutritious produce that you can imagine, while reducing 100% of the waste, 99% of the carbon emissions, and 98% of the water from grocery store produce. You should go check it out in booth 507.
Thank you. I'm sure it's delicious.
Did you say delicious?
Delicious?
Very delicious.
Very rude.
So thank you so much to FounderMade. I am MaryRuth Ghiyam. I am the founder and CEO of MaryRuth Organics. We are a non-GMO and vegan liquid supplement and gummy company. I have 4 children with my husband, David. David's here. He's sort of in the back. Our 4 children are 2 years old, twins, a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they really love our gummies. They're so delicious. Delicious is an important word. We were talking about that in the back together. And some of my team is here. We have over 100 people at my company. We've been around for 9 years. And the most important thing I want you to know is that our company really likes to be in service to people. So one of the reasons we love to come to events like this is if you send us a direct message on Instagram, I will personally answer it. And I think like you coming to this lecture shows that you are interested in innovation. You might already be doing some type of innovation or company project. And I will personally answer any of your questions. And I love mentoring, and it really means a lot. So please send us a direct message on Instagram.
We're going to do it now. Taya, start DMing. So you brought up innovation, and that's a great word whenever we talk about building brands of the future. So I want to start there because people think that innovation has to happen quick and it's fast and you should be innovating all the time. But many of you have been in business a long time. So Michael, I want to start with you, serial entrepreneur. Talk about this notion of this time continuum with innovation and what that really means when building a business.
I think innovation can mean different things to different people, right? Like innovation, I think at its core is trying to introduce something that is brand new, that's unique. However, I think that innovating on concepts or products or even brand in taking a different approach to something that is familiar is also innovative. One thing that I'll tell you that I've learned over the years, traditionally as a restaurateur and now as a D2C entrepreneur, The truth is that speed is important. Speed is important. That doesn't mean that you need to try to grow your sales as fast as possible. You're not trying to get to $10 million tomorrow, because that's really hard and you're probably gonna make a lot of mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes anyway. But I will say, surrounding yourself with people in the early days of creating a brand, from my experience, you need people to move fast. And if there are, the point of being in a startup for me is that there is no red tape. You are moving, you are trying to work in unison together to get to a certain place where you have an idea, innovation, doesn't have to be like something totally new and out of the blue. You have an idea, you present it to the team, and you make shit happen. And everybody's like, boom, 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 we're gonna do it, we're gonna try it, we're gonna make mistakes, it's okay. But I think that is the beauty of startup. And if you're the CEO of a company or a founder of a company or even at a high level at a company, and there are certain roadblocks in the early days, my suggestion and my advice is to cut that loose.
Well, and I think it's really interesting what you say, because you are a CEO, you're an entrepreneur, so you have the opportunity to create and build. But there's also this innovation that does take time as you're thinking through how to make it work in your building. And Salim, let's talk about the fact it took you 6 years to get into 1,000 doors, and you continue to grow and build. And so talk about what that journey has been when you think about innovation in relation to Michael's perspective and the speed, because there was speed, but there was also 6 years, and now you're 8 years.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think Michael touched on a good point. He said innovation is like coming up with something new. And so for us, we kind of pioneered the space sparkling tea. And when we launched, nobody really knew what a sparkling tea was. And I mean, as a species, we're all creatures of habit. So if you introduce something new, it's going to take time for that habit for people to get used to that habit and adjust to it. So the first 6 years for us were really spent educating consumers and kind of meeting them on a shelf and explaining what a sparkling tea is. And what we found out, our main consumer is actually a sparkling water drinker. So we had to change our messaging and innovate. And so there was a lot of failures, which is another word Michael said. And I think for any entrepreneur, definition of a failure really is just a lesson, right? You gotta learn that lesson, pivot, and continue innovating, because if you let one roadblock stop you, I mean, you're not gonna go that far, because there are roadblocks all the time, especially when you're dealing with the space and the competition that we're dealing with. So I think innovation, it's that mix and balance of the speed, but also doing it right and staying true to what you are and what your foundation is and what your mission is.
Well, and I love how you say that, because we talk about mission and values and the combination of both. And MaryRuth, I love how you talked about the fact you have 4 children, because when you think about MaryRuth's Organics and what you've built, that's very much a testament of innovating, right, for the past 10 years, but then staying true to who you are. So when you think about the brands and what innovation looks like over these last 10 years, what does it mean for you, and how are you finding that balance?
So I love this idea of, for me personally, innovation equals time management, period. So I'll just share that again, like innovation equals time management, period. And so I think every person has something that they're passionate about, something that they want to do, they want to innovate. And really, I think the one single common denominator of whether you get to live out your innovation or your purpose or your passion is gradually, slowly, consistently managing your time. And it's all about the compound effect. So the compound effect, for those of you who are not familiar, is this idea that all of us get 365 days a year. And if you do one small action that is leading towards your goal of launching a product or innovating something, and you take that compound effect of 20 minutes every single day for 365 days, you will actually move your life, your friends, your family forward, and be able to take care of people through whatever you're bringing to the world. And if someone asked me, MaryRuth, how did you, I was in a tremendous amount of financial debt, crippling debt. I grew this company for 9 years. Took almost 7 years for me personally to get out of debt. But it was all these small micro actions that were connected to a macro vision of innovation that allowed me to constantly move forward. And if people said, how did you do that? Or how did you have 4 pregnancies in 4 years while growing our company with no outside funding? We grew our company to over $100 million in revenue, and we were profitable from day one for 9 years. And it was something called time blocking. So I don't know if you don't know what time blocking is, you can just Google it after this lecture. But time blocking is this simple practice of the day before the next day, you map out what's going to happen, fun things, Zoom meetings. Maybe you need to buy your children sneakers. I have 4 kids who need sneakers all the time and their nails cut all the time. And I have for 18 years of my life, before I was married, before I had kids, before I had a business, I've been time blocking. And the same way some people do yoga, some people do meditation, this is a personal practice that allows me to build self-confidence and self-esteem and move my dreams and my innovation forward. So I really hope I hope that will be a tool that if it resonates with you, you will give it a try, because that's all it was slow, small, little things. Sometimes you feel like you're not going to even move, but it's about motion, right? Things in motion will stay in motion, and things in rest will stay in rest.
Well, and there's so many great things that you brought up there, because I think when we think about the macro of all of it and how it relates to your time blocking, how it relates to how you move, we're all interconnected as founders in our passion and in our beliefs. And so, Jacob, I want to talk about that, because you, of course, were named in Inc.'s most powerful companies, their 5,000 list, but you also talk about this notion of changing the future with food. And so when we think about macro and innovation, how have you built Let Us Grow through that lens?
Sure. Well, I do have very lofty goals of changing the future of food, because the food system right now is a mess. It's responsible for more than half of the water used. It's responsible for more than a third of the emissions, and half of it's wasted, which could feed 2 billion people. So, we see the headlines, we watch the documentaries, and I think most people just could feel small or feel like disempowered, to do anything about it. It just seems like, oh, well, the UN is going to do something, or the government, or some companies, but it's really consumers that need to drive the change. So I try to take that lofty goal and break it down into small bite-sized components that meet the consumer where they're at. So I think the first thing, to drive that change is growing a portion of your own food at home. But then we have to break that down even further, right? So we start with a beautiful product that could even be art if you didn't even have plants in it. So people would welcome it into their house or into their patios. And then, we make it super easy to put together and super easy to maintain. And then we actually grow baby plants, which is the hardest thing in growing. And so we take sort of de-stress the whole thing, right, for the consumer. So when you add this all up, our consumers have already had 3.5 million harvests and saved 120 million gallons of water. So that's pretty cool. But I think, thank you. But even more cool to me is that we've created over 100,000 farmers in the process. So we've converted consumers to conscious consumers, right? To farmers who are the caretakers of the earth. So they go around, they might only grow 10 or 20% of their own food at home, but they go around as conscious consumers thinking about the other 80%, and that's what's going to drive the change that I want.
Well, conscious consumerism is so important when we think about innovation, we think about the future. And Rachel, you have a different perspective than the rest of the panelists because you were in performance marketing. And so when you think about innovation through technology, through data, and then connecting with Jacob's point of consumerism, what does innovation in building brands of the future look like for you?
Yeah, I think with the changes to the privacy landscape where we aren't able to effectively always target people on Facebook or Instagram or with Google anymore, it's becoming much more important to collect zero-party data, the buzzword of the moment, directly from your consumers, your customer base, your shoppers. So by collecting that information from them, you're able to segment your audience and personalize campaigns so that you're able to drive higher revenue and deliver a better customer experience overall. So one of the top ways that I'm seeing this right now is through reviews, because traditionally you've had a 5-star review with some text on your site, and that's great. It tells you that a customer likes a product, but it's not necessarily helping you learn more about your customer base. So nowadays you can collect information around skin type, skin tone, skin concern, health goals, lifestyle, demographics, anything you want really. And then you can take all of that information, send it over to Klaviyo, Attentive, PostScript, and you can create segments and personalized campaigns that drive a higher revenue per recipient and a higher place to order rate, because you're actually delivering that customer something that's really relevant to them. So combining that data and the right tech platforms is going to get you a much better result with your marketing efforts.
Well, it is true. We have so much data at our fingertips. So it's understanding the data and then thinking about the future. So Michael, for you, because we've all been to if you haven't been to New York, the Meatball shop is also Michael's. But when we talk about Creatures of Habit and what you're building now, how did that inform, because this isn't your first, second, or third rodeo, so how did data inform what you're building now?
Well, I guess I just want to, I'll back up a second. You know, it's so interesting going from the retail brick and mortar, very high touch, hands-on restaurant space into the digital landscape, right? Like in a restaurant, if people don't show up, you are screwed. That's it. Unless you stand outside and coerce people to come in, like you see in tourist areas, around the globe, you're not really you can't do much. However, in the digital world, there's 45,000 different avenues you can take to get your product, your brand, your idea, your service in front of people. It just depends on how much money you have, how much money you want to spend. But then I think it also goes back to this innovation thing, right? And I was thinking as everybody was talking here, I believe that innovation comes in the form of approach in everything. It comes in the form of approach. How are you approaching building your community? How are you approaching developing your relationships? How, you can have, for lack of a better word, I am in the oatmeal business. It's an archaic, very sleepy business. Nobody's really crushed it in oatmeal outside of the one that we all know crushes it in oatmeal. So how am I innovating on making oatmeal cool, right? And the data has really informed me based on the performance nutrition that Creatures of Habit really is that I'm not after the oatmeal arena. I'm just not. I'm after the fitness enthusiast, wellness enthusiast, person that really wants to and understands that paying for wellness is something that is almost necessary today if you want to be in that space. So data has informed everything for us. I cast initially a pretty wide net, and now it's so focused. It's so focused, and it's incredible to be able to have this kind of data at our fingertips, to be able to say, okay, you kind of moms, dads, kids, grandmas, football players, basketball players, hockey players, Nintendo players, PlayStation players, all the players, and then you're oh, actually, no, it's this person, and you find that out over time. You find that out through innovation and curiosity, discovery, but it's really awesome because it's very unique to be able to have that. It's not available in a lot of other industries.
Well, and being able to narrow, because so many times when we have products that we can consume, we're it's for everyone. Everyone needs oatmeal, everyone needs oats, everyone needs this. And I think it's really interesting. And Salim, we've talked a bit about your brands and sound, And I think it's interesting because you've taken this really strong educational approach. And I want to get into education when we think about innovation, because you've spent a lot of time not just building the brand, but educating consumers on the why. So you can narrow it, but you're still broad. So how does that play into when you think about the future of sound and how you're building?
So yeah, when we think of the future of this space, for us, it's always, our foundation has been education and really trying to bring transparency into the industry, because we feel like, especially in the beverage space, it's lacking. You have ingredients like a natural flavor, which is just ambiguous by definition. Doesn't mean it's bad, you just don't know what is in it. So from the get-go, we decided to really build the brand around transparency and educate consumers in what they're putting in their body. I think Spin's published right now, the #1 trending beverage category is functionality, and specifically mood-enhancing functionality. So people, at the end of the day, want to feel good, right? Especially in a COVID and a post-COVID world. And what you put in your body actually translates into how you feel. And so consumers want to educate themselves, or are starting to want to educate themselves on what they're putting in their body. And so we, as Michael mentioned, have taken a big stance on building a community of, we call them sound ambassadors, and their whole purpose, they're educators in the space, from the Kelly LeVex to the Max Lugavers of the world, that go out and share with their audience the importance of what you put into your body, because that really translates into how you feel.
Well, and how you feel is also a common theme. I think when we think about the future, there is a form of wellness in everything that we're doing, right? And we see it at all levels. And I think, MaryRuth, it's interesting because you were so ahead, and now there are so many other companies who are talking about vitamins and supplements in the way that you've done for so long. So when you think about the future of the brand, what does it look like for you, and how are you using data to inform, because you started in a place of wellness?
I really love this question because I think the answer is very, very simple. And I think also the answer will probably be the same for decades and decades, which is, I think at the heart of like building brands, launching brands, and all innovation is this idea of taking care of people. And so you don't have to see like the whole vision, but if you are able to use even one-on-one data, so there are amazing consumer research technologies now, but I also think that what we did in the very beginning was this kind of concept of no stone left unturned, which means we've been around for 9 years. The first 4 years, we had no employees, even though we were growing quite a lot, and we were growing quite a lot, but we really chose to just only run the company with myself, my husband David, and my mom. And so we would read, this really gave us such a competitive edge in taking care of people, because we ourselves, for 4 years, were reading every single DM, Facebook message, email. And by the way, don't be afraid to really listen to anyone who's complaining. It's so important to be there for them 100%, and even steer them to other brands that might be a better fit for them. But really, like, no stone left unturned to give one-on-one individual care. And then my good friend Gary Vee always says, like, scale the unscalable. I didn't really ever hear him say that till recently, but what I learn when I hear scale the unscalable, it means no matter how much you're growing, never ever ignore even one person or one customer. So create a system to be there for your people who are supporting you, and you create circuitry of taking care of them, and then they will. You know, people always ask, like, well, what about long-term customers or loyalty? And I think it is just very simple, which is you can use all the financial data. At my company, we have monthly reporting, we have board meetings, we have all the data. But never lose, for all your execs and even your entire team, this one-on-one connection. And then the consumer will tell you where the trend is going. And if you look at some of the biggest brands today and you read their books, some of the greatest founders, some of the greatest execs, they never removed that part of their daily existence of reading direct messages. That's why even I said, like, I would love to respond to you, because that's where the magic is. So I really think this idea of taking care of people and really listening, even when it's making you nauseous or it's hard, and then allowing the product and the brand and the innovation to go where the green lights are. And have to say this one final thing, same thing goes, internal matches external, to truly, truly listen to your employees. That will make you a very strong brand, and it's not easy, but to hear feedback from your team, and together you will create a very special rocket ship.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't do it alone. I named my company BrainTrust because I really believe that it takes smart brains coming together to solve problems. So I think that that is the key for all businesses. And one of the things you talked about was scale. And when you scale, you also have to listen to your consumers. You have to meet the market need. And so, Jacob, when you think about your backgrounds and this notion of changing the future of food, a lot of it is, how do you scale that? And I love Let Us Grow because you can have it inside, you can have it outside, you can have it all these heights. Was that driven by you thinking about your future consumers and what they need in order to be true customers of Let Us Grow?
Yeah, definitely. There's so much real data involved, right? Because we talk about growing your own food at home. I saw a couple people squirming in their seats back there because it's an overwhelming, idea, and it's been around longer than oatmeal, but it hasn't had an overhaul, in a long time. So we try to make it as reliable and predictable and stress-free as possible. So we have data that we've been collecting for many years for hundreds of varieties of plants. We know, how well they grow in different environments. We know, the ages that they need to be shipped in the mail. And then we ask our customers, how big their families are, how often they eat at home, what they like to eat, and whether they're growing indoors or outdoors. Then if it's outdoors, then we have all this data on the climate where they are, so we could come up with a model of, what's the best plants for them to grow, what's the best timing to send them, and when they'll all be ready to be harvested, so that they can then make a recipe that they like that ties everything together. So, and then we continuously evolve that through a feedback loop so that we can improve that process.
Well, and the feedback loop, I think, is so crucial, because being able to respond, being able to listen, the feedback, the data, understanding the speed. Rachel, as we think about everything that you're hearing from the brand founders, how you look at data, what guidance can you give us of the merging of data trends and truly building brands of tomorrow?
Right, yeah, I think at the moment it's all about continuous customer insights. So it's not just good enough to sell someone something one time and leave it at that. We really need to figure out the retention piece and how to continue delivering a customer experience that delights and brings people coming back over and over again. So we started at Okendo with reviews, creating that two-way dialogue, and we knew there was a big opportunity to expand it beyond that. So now it's also on-site surveys, post-purchase attribution surveys, so you can figure out how to optimize your marketing budget, get more people in the door, learn more about those individuals and how to better serve them, as well as sending out shareable links to learn more or have market research so that you can continue to innovate and build better brands that, really delight your customers overall.
Well, I appreciate that. I know that we are close. I'm going to do one last thing as we get off the stage, because you all have shared so much phenomenal just information, data. You've built amazing brands. So we're going to do rapid fire as we get off the stage. I'm going to say one word, and then you say one word, okay? All right, here we go. Michael, innovation.
Happiness.
Oh, happiness. Rachel, tomorrow.
Conversions.
Ooh. Salim, future.
Wellness.
Oh, that was my next word.
We're synced.
Okay, Jacob, I'll give you an easy one. Food. Food.
Delicious.
I set you up. I set him up for delicious. Okay, MaryRuth, let's see. I'm going to let you end us with innovation.
The customer.
Yes.
That's two words, the customer.
Thank you guys so much. We'll be around later if anyone has questions. Thank you for joining our panel.